to India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. We don't really need to know just where we'll go. Maybe Canada, then to Brazil, then through the Alpine foothills. All I really want to know is, can we go? Oh baby, can we go? Round and around the globe.
Welcome to Take Me With You, episode 28. I'm Ryan,
And I'm Cheryl. We are two well-traveled people who want to go everywhere.
but that's just not going to happen. So instead, we'll travel vicariously by inviting a guest to share their unique travel stories with us.
Today we are talking to Beth and Steven. This is a two-parter. So last week they were on, and we did a little fun planning for their trip, and then they somehow miraculously planned the trip and then got married and then went on the honeymoon and then came back to recover, and now they're back here 1 week later. So
Through the magic of podcast time.
Yeah. So welcome, Beth and Steven.
Thanks.
Hey!
It kind of feels like it all happened in 1 week.
It didn't.
That's too much for 1 week. Nope. Also moving.
It was a 2 week vacation. I can do the math on that.
Oh man. I realized though in part one that we didn't really explain my connection with you, Beth. We kind of
Did we not?
glossed over that. I don't think
It was
so.
a long time ago.
Yeah,
It was.
I realized
so
after the fact.
in podcast time, it's been 1 week. In real world time, just to give our audience context, we recorded the planning episode on February 5th, and it is
Wow, was that
now
long
April
ago?
29th.
Wow. Yep.
Yep, that
So-
certainly happened.
We got some awesome time dilation going on there.
Yeah. So we could ask you guys the exact same interview questions and you'd have totally different answers because I doubt any of you remember how you answered it. So that's pretty fun. So
Oh, absolutely not.
and the reason I know that about Beth is because Beth and I used to have a podcast together called Old Maids.
What?
In addition to us being bestie buddies and all those fun things. So
We need to look up the stats around April 6th because Old Maid's got a ton of shout-outs at our wedding, and I want to know if anyone actually tuned in.
oh my goodness. Oh wait, Ryan wasn't there.
No.
Ryan, Old Maid's got like 3 shout-outs through like toast.
Besides just yours?
Yeah, so it turns out my entire family was listening to Old Maids. And so that came out in the speeches, which was fun to hear.
No. When you say your entire family was listening, like, for what period of time were they listening?
Apparently they sat down and listened to an episode and then
They
maybe
said a
listened to
couple
another one.
episodes.
Yeah.
They figured out the math because they knew when I met Beth, so they went back. For people that aren't familiar with the Old Maid podcast, maybe you guys should explain what it is for some clarity.
We were single and then we started online dating for podcast stories, and then I met Steven. Whoops.
The podcast was about being single, not about online dating, but then that all happened, and now Beth and I are both in love.
And we
stuff,
talked about
so.
our dates and
Yeah.
stuff.
So basically there's a recorded first impressions of me as part of a podcast, which I to this date have still not listened to.
Oh, really?
But apparently my parents, my brother's girlfriend, and at least a couple other people all sat around the outdoor bonfire listening to those episodes.
Which we did not know this at all until the wedding.
They said they
ever mentioned it.
They swore themselves to secrecy because they were afraid it was going to mess with our relationship.
It probably would have really weirded me out. So
Yeah, well, yeah, I can get that.
I mean, it's like the first time you met his parents, you arrive at his house and our voices are blasting over their speakers or something like that.
They just have it going across the Bluetooth speakers.
They're old maid heads for sure.
Old heads, maybe. I don't know what it would be. Yeah. Maids?
Yeah,
I don't
spinsters.
know. I don't know what our listeners were.
Spinsters.
Oh yeah, spinsters. I knew that. I don't have a brain right now. It's fine.
That's okay. It's been a long time since we ended it.
So anyway, now we're on Take Me With You, and this is fun times being with Beth on a video chat again, podcasting, and also there's 2 guys here, so that's
So Cheryl and I were talking on the phone the other day because we do talk without recording it sometimes.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, it was weird.
Sometimes. But we talked a little bit, and then it was kind of a little bit of an awkward silence, and we were both like, We have, like, things to talk about, but we need to record it. Like, she needs to ask me about the honeymoon and wants to hear all about it, but we record it for this. And then she and I are going to do an update on Old Maids, and I want to ask her about her engagement, but, like, we got to save that for the recording, too.
Oh, the podcast life.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And then we're like, so weather's been cool.
Cool. I guess we'll talk to you later.
Yeah. So now I get to hear about your trip, and I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So first of all, just recap where you went.
Oh, we decided after you guys put us through that great list of places, we went to Greece. It was,
Cool.
It was great.
Tell us about Greece.
Just kidding.
Okay. I don't care.
No, we went to Spain.
We started in Barcelona, and then went up the coast a little bit, and then went to Paris, and ended in Amsterdam.
On 420.
Yes.
And more importantly, Easter. 420 had no impact there. They don't
Easter.
care. But Easter...
Well, they were definitely 420 blazing.
But 420 blazing is just...
That's just
I'm pretty sure
all
they
the
all.
time, right?
I think they do 421 blazing and 422 blazing. I think it's just a
360 blazing is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to that when we get to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, Easter was more of the craziness there.
I'm remembering 4 or 5 years ago, I was in Europe just like a week before Easter, and like, actually, I was in Rome and at the Vatican, and like, they were setting up all these chairs, and like, everywhere we went, they were like, well, this is because of Easter, and this is because of Easter, and we're like, okay, y'all need to chill about Easter.
Yeah, apparently Easter is when Europe vacations, like, they go hard. And we definitely saw that in Amsterdam.
Yeah, lots of parts of Europe get 2 weeks off, like the
Spring
large
break,
parts of the
Easter
continent
break.
just straight up shut down. But even just like businesses, like
Wow.
there's like so.
Oh man! So tell us about Barcelona.
All right, yeah. So starting with Barcelona,
Spain is great.
yeah, we like Spain.
Yeah,
Spain
it is.
a lot.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
And just
So
remind me, because
yeah.
I think I know the answer, but just to make sure, neither of you have ever been before, correct?
No.
No, none of these places on this trip were anywhere we had been.
Okay.
Which we...
Besides Newark Airport, which I had been to.
We intentionally did that because I've never been to Europe, but Steven has been to, like, Italy and stuff. So we wanted to go places that neither of us had been before. So I loved Barcelona and Spain in general. We ended up staying in an area that was actually not close to anything that we kind of ended up doing. So we took taxis a lot. But taxis in Barcelona are pretty darn cheap. I don't think we spent over like €10 on a taxi.
Wow.
Okay.
That's not bad.
And then we got to Paris and we're like, oh no.
Yeah, no, we stayed in a really nice hotel,
It was
and
lovely.
it was 1 block from Sagrada Familia.
Oh.
So like we were like, oh great, we're right in the middle of town. Like because usually think of like the main cathedral is in like the heart of the city. And because it's a newer, more modern building, it's in a different part of town.
Oh, sure.
It's not like crazy far. It's like a 20-minute walk to the older part of the city.
Yeah.
But, I think ideally you would want to be a little bit closer to that.
It was like a 40-minute walk to the Gothic district, which is kind of where a lot of the cool stuff was.
I think maybe it felt like 40, but it was.
Yeah, it's about 20
it was
minutes
a bit of
from
a walk.
that area. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, most places we were was like a 20-ish minute walk, but after walking a lot, it was like, let's just taxi. Especially when the taxi's like €7. Like, yeah, let's just hop in a taxi. And there's no Uber or anything like that in Barcelona.
Oh, okay.
So there's just taxis everywhere. So it's really easy to grab one and get there in 5 minutes. So
Okay.
that was
Who
nice.
knows? They might have had it. We just
I don't think so. Because I know there's some cities that just say no Uber.
Yeah.
because
Well,
they're
we
mortgage
didn't
company.
have a phone.
Yeah. We didn't do
connection, so it wasn't like we could have.
That's true.
Mm.
done it.
That's true. We couldn't have used it anyway. Yeah, we only did Wi-Fi the whole time and really didn't have issues.
Isn't it great?
I mean, it would have been more convenient, but it wasn't like we were really screwed over because
The
of it.
break
Like,
is kind of nice,
we're fine.
though. That's what I enjoy.
Yeah, I loved it when we would walk into our hotel. It was like instantly we would start getting messages, but
Yeah.
we just like had to plan ahead more, like look up stuff when we were in the hotel and then head out. But it wasn't too bad. But the hotel we stayed at, even though it wasn't in the more centralized area, it was really nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very expensive. It was a really nice hotel.
So what else did you do in Barcelona?
What did we do in Barcelona? Oh, I have my notes from this trip.
Well, you mentioned
Oh.
the Gothic district and that was where all the cool stuff was. So what exactly is the Gothic district and what is the cool stuff?
It's the old section of town, which the big thing, because Barcelona is in the Catalonia area of Spain, which they're very much still holding on to their whole like independence thing. Which while we were there, we're like, is this like Texas or is this like Quebec? Like where they kind of like threaten or like that's a little bit of their identity, but like it'll never actually happen. Like what is this actually? And it sounds like it might be a little more serious.
Yeah, they seem pretty serious about it.
Well, they voted on it a couple times in the last few years.
Did they?
Yeah. So it's very serious.
And there's a big thing right now about political prisoners and freedom of speech. So there are yellow ribbons everywhere. Like everywhere there's yellow ribbons. Because I guess there's been a bunch of people in prison for speaking out against political stuff, and it's interesting. But
well, yeah, but so like and like the I don't know the names of every single one of the areas, but like the Gothic, I don't remember if it's Gothic Quarter for because there's also like the Latin Quarter, but I think that's Paris. It's what used to be part of the walled city. Back when there was a wall.
We were staying outside of the wall
pretty much. So it's like down there is where you get a lot of the buildings that are more than a couple hundred years old. Feels a little bit more medieval. There's a lot more of the historic stuff down that way, including the like what would have been like the main cathedral for a lot of other places, which is not as well known because of the the Familia. But
So the first day we got in at like 9 o'clock in the morning, so we were determined to stay up all day.
Good for you.
And not go home and sleep. Which I mean, we basically napped. I napped basically every day. The first couple days were a little rough, but not so bad. But the first day we just walked around a ton. We ended up walking up to what was that place called? Montjuic, whatever.
I think Cheryl mentioned that. Yeah.
Cheryl suggested it. We walked almost the whole way up.
Nice.
And then we're like, screw this. We're taking the whatchamacallit thing up. Gondola thing. Because there's a gondola stop halfway up. And we're like, because, and also because there's a castle up there. I don't know if I don't remember how much we talked about last time.
Yeah.
There's a castle up there, and since it was a literal fortress, you can't see it. It's like meant to not be seen.
Oh,
so
interesting.
as you're walking up, you're like, it's here somewhere, but you can't see it. And so we're like, and then we're like, well, the gondola thing's only like €5. Like, let's just hop on it and see what's up. I don't know, whatever. And so we went up there and ended up getting there right as a guided tour was happening. We're like,
perfect.
And the tour was like €3 or €4 extra, and we're like, okay, let's do that. Yeah. It was probably one of my favorite things we did.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
It was really cool.
I mean, it is a fortress you can't really see from
anywhere.
From anywhere in the town, and it's interesting because you have different eras of castles and fortresses that were built to deal with different kinds of siege warfare. When you had catapults and trebuchets and all that stuff, you wanted really high walls because you wanted something that they couldn't launch stuff over. But when you started getting into ballistics and cannon warfare, you actually wanted the smallest profile possible to be hit. A lot of the Spanish age of conquest, those fortresses are much more in profile with wherever they are, so that there's less to hit.
Interesting.
But the walls are super thick.
Super thick and angled, and it's also set up a way that like no matter which area you're coming from, anyone can see you on the ground. Like it's so because it's a military fortress. It's not a castle. It's not like a lords and ladies castle. It's like actually meant to keep people there. And it was last used in the 70s because Franco used it as a prison. So like but the tour was so good because it's actually a tour that doesn't just take you around and tell you things. It actually takes you in places that you can't go unless you.
Oh, cool! Those are
so
always
like
good.
You actually got to look into the cistern that is still used, and like I didn't see that there was glass on the wall. I just like as we walked up, I was like, oh my gosh, because you're up above, and then it's just like this massive cavern full of water, and there was like this weird kind of optical illusion with. I couldn't quite tell where the water line was, and then I didn't see there was glass, and I was like, oh my gosh! But it was cool. It
was one of those moments where it's like with a little bit more marketing, I think they could have really sold it.
It was like us and two other guys.
Says the guy in advertising.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like it's very rare that you go to a place and they're like, okay, for I think it was €3 per person, we're going to take you down into the prison.
You're
going to
actually
be able
to
get to like go see where like the prisoners etched the walls.
And like
the only
there's
way
like
you can
still
go do
writing
that.
on the wall.
You want to go
and
into the
stuff,
top of the only tower, you have to do this tour.
Yeah, so we got to go to the bottom and also go all the way up to the tower. You can
That's
see
super
all.
cool.
So we saw all of Barcelona in a like 360, and
Yeah.
there was a thunderstorm coming in as we were up there, so that was cool.
Ooh.
It was super cool. It was a lot of walking to lead up to that, so it was like, but it was totally worth it. So
Yeah,
that's how
that was a lot of fun.
And then we got to take the gondola all the way down, so we didn't have to walk.
Nice. So
Yeah.
didn't ride the gondola when I was there. So tell me about those views.
It was a fun.
I think it was. Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty similar to any of the other views from up near the top up there.
Okay, but
Like,
talk
it
about the
wasn't that
view of
much higher up.
Barcelona. What's it
Oh,
like?
it's beautiful. I mean, it's such a pretty city, and like everything's relatively low, so there's not a ton sticking up out of the town. I mean, there's like a couple of cathedrals and stuff, and then the cathedral thing that's on the hill. There's one that's on the hill that just looks super like, I don't know, cool and classic. But yeah, the mountains surrounding it and the bay. It's a really beautiful
That's cool.
city. But that morning or afternoon on our way there, we just like dropped in because we were hungry, so we dropped into a random place to get paella at like a Turkish place maybe or Middle Eastern. Ended up being they did not speak English. There was like one guy who kind of spoke English, so it was like a little touch and go there for a little bit. We're like, I don't know what's happening. It was, I would say, the best paella we had.
Really?
Yeah, probably.
And we shared a bowl because it's always so much food, and it was €8.
Yeah, in general, we were really happy
was
with
incredible.
the pricing of food in Spain in general. I
Barcelona's
appreciated that, like, it felt like regardless of where we went, there wasn't necessarily a like doubling of price when it came to alcohol.
Oh my gosh,
Which
the
was-
alcohol was so cheap.
Yeah, which was just nice.
It's like
to
a
be
glass of wine for €4. Sure.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Like if it felt like if the bottle at the store would cost you €10, it would cost you 12 or 14 to buy it for dinner. Where in the States it'd be like, oh yeah, $35 for this bottle. And
Yeah.
so I appreciated not getting upcharged.
There was one
on the
place at
alcohol.
dinner where we didn't realize we were ordering a bottle
Mm.
because it was like €12, so we just assumed it was a glass. No, it was a full bottle. Just because like $12 for a glass of wine is pretty standard here. So like,
Yeah.
that was pretty good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm pretty sure we actually went to a Spanish restaurant yesterday, and I'm pretty sure they did the same Cava brand. It was like almost $40 here
For a bottle.
for the bottle.
Yikes.
It was, I think, €9 in Spain.
Yeah.
But I think that's not uncommon.
Whatever.
So.
So that first day we kind of did a lot, and then at night we found just a little bar restaurant thing around the corner from our hotel and had dinner there, and that was really good for being just kind of a random Yelp find. They had like a meat and cheese platter thing like they do everywhere, and for €12 it was the biggest meat platter I've ever ordered. And it was €12.
But I think that's
I was like, at home this would have been 40.
But I think that's the thing in Spain or really any country that has that good of food is like that's just the case. Is like the restaurants are just good. It's like you don't have to find the place in the super touristy area, and in fact, it's probably going to be better when it's not, and it's just the random place around the corner because they just make good food.
Yeah, and turns out that Spain's really into their gin and tonics. And by gin and tonic, I mean like a goblet, like sangria size gin and tonic, and they're very good.
Yeah, I don't think they make it any different other than that they use a lemon instead of a lime.
Yeah, but it's just a lot.
But yeah, I feel like they were serving it the way in Texas we would serve a margarita, where it's just like in this giant like punch bowl-y glass. So it really feels like a double gin and tonic pretty much everywhere you would go.
And I don't know why, but they were really good gin and tonics. So the next day we did a secret food tour in the morning, and that's I know you suggested secret food tour.
What makes food secret?
It's the company called Secret Food Tours.
They give you a secret piece of food at the end of the thing.
That no one has ever known.
Ooh.
It's just the brand.
Have you been paying attention? What is this that we're going to put in your mouth?
Our tour guide, his name was Miguel. We haven't reviewed him yet. We should. He was great. He was Spanish. He was from the south, where like the pigs come from. I don't know.
What?
But no, like where he came from is like where they raise the pigs for the cured meat. Like that's like what they like his dad was a pig farmer.
The way you said it.
Sorry,
like,
where the pigs come from.
Yeah.
But so he wasn't from Barcelona, but he'd been living there for several years, and he was so good. So he just basically took us to the places that like he knew was good. And like,
it wasn't La Mancha, but it was something similar to that.
I don't remember what it was called, but he was great. So we had probably my favorite food of the whole trip on that tour. So he took us to this tapas place, and also told us like how to eat tapas and how not to look like a tourist.
Cool.
But all the food was so good. And
it was. I mean, it was a really great tour because of all the food. We got a little bit of history out of it too.
Yeah.
Learned a little bit about like what people would order when they go to market, which was really interesting. But I think probably the most, other than it just being really delicious, what was probably the most useful thing that came out of it was that he like just emailed us a list of other places to go.
Oh,
and
nice.
We went to, I think, like 2/3 of them. So
That's
that
awesome.
was really great.
There was one place that we walked past, and he's like, if I have a tour of like 4 or 5 people, which doesn't happen often, we go there, but like it's a really tiny restaurant, so there's just not enough room for larger tour. And I think there was like 8 or 9 people on this tour. And so he's like, if you want to go back, go there, but don't wait in line, just walk up to the bar because the line will take forever. And so we did that the next day, I think, and it was so good. Not usually a calamari person. This was the best calamari in the world.
I mean, you're getting seafood on the Mediterranean, so it's gonna be good.
Like it's grilled too. It's not fried because that's gross. And it was so good. And it's just like the full little squid. Like they just grill the full squid and bring it out to you. But oh my gosh, it was so good.
Sweet.
Yeah, the tapas place we went to, it was like midday, so I think they literally just opened, so we were like one of the first people in there. We walked past it later that week, and it was packed at night, like so full. And we almost went back, and then I was like, it's too busy, I can't do it. And that's the kind of place where you just stand up and yell your order, and they bring it to you, and you just stay standing, and it's like, yeah, it was like clearly where the locals go to get really good food.
But I think that's a really good piece that I think we talked about on the last episode that is so good that you guys did it, is like, if you're going to do a food tour, do it towards the start of your time there so that you can take the suggestions, because that's perfect.
So fast forwarding a little bit, after that we ended up booking one in Paris.
Oh, cool.
Because they have them all over, so we're like, we have some open time in Paris.
With the same company?
With the same company,
okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
But we already had tickets for the Louvre the first day we were there, and we didn't feel like scrapping those and like kind of rearranging everything, so we ended up doing a food tour on our very last day in Paris, and that was disappointing because like we couldn't. I think it would have helped us a lot because we kind of floundered a little bit in Paris, but
as far as food goes,
just as far as like finding anywhere good to eat or what the good areas were.
I think that's one of the things that's great about like the tapas that we had there is I feel like a lot of times, especially dating tapas in Los Angeles, it's very much, I feel like a lot of restaurants, it's their solution to figuring out a way to get you to pay twice as much. It's not, it's like the prices are just like 20% cheaper, but they bring you about a third of as much food. Where it felt much more like the idea of tapas in Barcelona is what they actually intended to be, is more of a like, oh, you can try a bunch of different things.
Yeah, and like Miguel was telling us, like the point of tapas is to like stand around, eat, share. It's meant to be shared. Like just like get a bunch of things, share, try a bunch of stuff with your friends as you're talking, so you're not like committed to one meal. And like his suggestion was go into a new restaurant, order a drink, order one tapas. See if you like it, good, you can order more. If you don't like it, leave. Like go find another place to eat. And I feel like that was the biggest cultural difference in eating that we found in Spain, is that like adding onto your order is totally normal. You can just keep ordering. Whereas in the US, you order your food and then you sit and eat it. And then they bring you your check. And like if you want to add something to your check, it's like kind of awkward and weird. Whereas that is not the case in Spain. Like they're kind of, we had to ask for the check every single place we went.
Well, yes, that's pretty common outside the US, actually.
Yeah. So it was really interesting to me that like it's even though I think we think Americans base our social structure around food, we really like that's not. I think we go to eat. We don't go to eat to socialize.
Well, and then in the States, they're trying to get several people through tables and everything. And in a lot of other places in the world, like if you're at a table, you have it for as long as you want, and there's not a rush. And just in general, in Spain, there's not a rush, and so
yeah. Well, I think there's something interesting to the dynamics of it too, where like there were definitely restaurants that we went into where the food was good, and the service, it felt like the person showed up
Sure.
often enough that, like, you know, they were keeping an eye on your table, or they would, like, it wasn't at the same pace you might have been used to if you'd gone to like a Ben Against or something.
Yeah.
But you didn't notice that the waiter wasn't like hovering, and you would hit that point in the night where you're like, oh, we've been here a while, maybe I should ask for the check. And I feel like that was a sign of a good place with good service, where there were also a lot of other places that we went to where it was
Paris.
like, or even, I think there were some places in Spain too where it would be like, hi, we're going to sit you down, and I'm not coming back for 45 minutes with water or the menus.
Yep.
And they'll be like, I need to look at the menu so I can order something.
We kept joking at like the end of every meal. It was like, let us pay you. Like, this is a transaction. We took your food. Let us give you our money. We want to leave. And they would just not show up.
Because they don't want to be pushy. They don't want to push you out of the restaurant.
Yeah, it was interesting. Anyway, moving on. So the next day we actually had a really cool tour. We went up to, we did a tour group up to Montserrat. And had,
to
That's
Montserrat.
Ryan's suggestion. Good job, Ryan.
Yeah, I wish we had more time up there, actually.
So was it
I felt
cool?
a little rushed. It's beautiful. It's really, really, really beautiful. We didn't have a ton of time in the monastery because we had to catch the gondola back down. That was a much more impressive / terrifying gondola ride. 'Cause
So Stephen agreed to it then.
he didn't know how scary it was. None of us did. But
Because he was
the guy-
saying he wasn't interested in that when we were planning. So that's interesting.
Oh, well,
yeah.
it's because the next leg of the tour was we hopped on a bus and went and rode horses through the countryside.
Don't think that when I because I did most of the planning in terms of like
Stephen planned it all.
reserving stuff. Don't think that when I was reading up on the different ones, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go with the one that goes down the funicular and not the gondola.
Yeah.
And then as we're driving up, they're like, the funicular is broken. You're going to have to take the gondola.
Oh.
And the guide was like, this gondola was made in the 30s. It's the same one from 1930s. And we were like,
It wasn't.
It wasn't scary. It was smooth, but just the like you go down kind of the first little section, you're not too far off the ground, and then the second section, you're like, oh my gosh, we are so high up.
There's a good. I mean, I don't know if have you done Sea to Sky up in
Vancouver.
up in Vancouver?
No.
That's nah.
Nope.
But this one was even more so than that one.
It's
Well,
high.
it's the first couple posts. You're probably hovering 150, 200 feet above serrated. Montserrat literally is Latin for the serrated mountain.
Yeah.
There's all these
that makes sense. Sure.
comical like Mortal Kombat spikes below you as you're heading down the mountain. But they're closer, and then you hit the sort of cliff face of the mountain, and I would say at least 500 feet.
It kind of just feels like you're on
between
a rubber
you
band.
and the ground, at least.
Yeah.
It may have even been getting into the 1,000.
It was cool, but
we were up there.
I mean, the view was incredible,
Yeah.
but it's a little terrifying. But that's on like the other side of the mountains from Barcelona, so you're looking out the other side. So then we hopped on a bus and went to a guy's stable and rode horses for like an hour and a half or so throughout the countryside where we saw the backside of the mountains, and it was really pretty. It was really fun, and the horses were good and easy, and Stevens was on a lead with the lead, so he didn't have to do anything. And it was great.
Which I was okay with.
That was really fun. I got pretty car sick in the bus though, so that I was really nauseous for basically the whole day, which was not fun. That night we this is not really Spain related, but it's still really cool. We did the dinner in the dark thing.
What?
Have you guys? Yeah, so there's one in Barcelona.
What?
And
I don't know
someone
what this
told us
is.
about this, so we're like,
Oh no!
So
I
you
have
go
heard about this.
and you go and eat dinner in the complete dark.
That's right.
And it's because it's really cool. It's also all the
Why
waiters
is
are
it
blind.
cool?
It's a different type of like sensory way to eat
It's
food.
really
'cause
weird.
It's I wouldn't do it like multiple times probably, but the food was good.
The food was really good.
But there is something really interesting. The idea of like, and when we say it's dark, it's like you can't see anything.
Literally
period.
cannot see
like,
anything.
They black the entire place out.
So
But
how do
you realize
get
how
the
much
food to
you
your
rely.
mouth?
You feel around. And
You use your
find it.
hands. You don't use utensils. They're
Well,
like
there are utensils,
they're like
but
you can try, but like we suggest you just use your hands. So all the waiters are blind. And you are seated, and they like, they tell you like they use your like your hands to like find your glasses and everything, and what was it, like 5? You can choose what kind of food, like what how many servings of food you get and stuff. I think we did 5.
Yeah, but it was interesting.
Courses. It was cool.
Yeah,
So
they do.
weird. I'm trying to understand how it would be cool though. Like it's still not clicking with
It's
me.
really disconcerting because when you're in that kind of dark, your body kind of freaks out. Like it's very weird. Like it's a strange sensation. Like you could almost like, at least I could almost like feel the dark around my eyes. Like it's a really strange sensation that like your eyes are dilating so hard trying to find light, and there is just none.
Yeah.
Like
I've been in that situation before, but I'm still trying to figure out how like eating
and
has
since
related to that.
Eating's pretty visual. Like you look at all your food and you know what you're gonna put in your mouth. And when you don't know what's coming, it's really interesting. It was really cool. And they're in a bunch of cities. So if you're in one that has one, I highly suggest you go. I thought it was a really cool experience.
Interesting.
There was unfortunately a group of, I don't know, sorority shrieking monsters behind us that they tell you like, please be respectful and like keep it down. Like be quiet. And, it's not a party atmosphere. Like this is an interesting experience, and like, be respectful. And they had to keep shushing these people, and they would not shut up. And it was that was annoying. But it was kind of just like another restaurant experience with that. But
I'm picturing the monsters from Monsters U when you say that, sorority girls.
But anyway, that was cool. So let's see, what else did we do? We went to a flamenco dance show. Kind of by accident. So one night we decided to walk around the Gothic Quarter because we hadn't been there in the evening. So we're like, you know what, let's go back in the evening and kind of see what the nightlife is like and like see what kind of fun stuff we can find there. And there was a very much like geared for tourist activity flamenco show, but in this like really cool old building that like looked like it should have a flamenco show in it. Like it was this cool, super old like, I don't know, courtyard area. It was very cool. Unfortunately, we had already kind of had some to drink at dinner, and then there was a drink involved in the ticket, and so Steven and I both fell asleep at some point because we had a good amount of alcohol, and then we sat down, and it was just like, oh no. But it was still very cool.
Yeah, we were probably 5 drinks in before we got there, which is a lot of drinks for us. But yeah, it was fun. I think it was one of those things where I was initially not as interested in doing it because I know flamenco dancing is not that region of Spain. It kind of did going to New York City for to be like, oh man, I really want to see some country western music. Yeah. Like it's just not from that region. But I'm not trained in flamenco, so
it's from a lot closer region than the United States is. So.
Yeah, that's true. And it wasn't cheap. I think it was €25 per person. But we were like, what? And we were able to peek in. And we're like, it just looks cool too. So sure, we got no plans. Let's go. It was cool. The music was really good. They were very talented. The next day we went to the Sagrada, and that was incredible and just mind blowing. And it was beautiful. Like there's no other words for it. It was incredible. Do you have any words for that?
Yeah, for those people that aren't familiar with it, it's a cathedral that is currently being built. They haven't finished it yet.
Say about 10 years it should be done.
And it was Gaudi. It was the architect behind it. There's a lot of really beautiful stained glass windows. It doesn't really look like anything like any other anything else you would see. At points, it feels very excessive. And at other points, it feels very minimal. The light inside is very beautiful. Definitely worth Googling just to see what it looks like on the inside.
If you're in Barcelona, you have to go.
Yeah, you just
the stained glass window is all in color gradations, and so different times of the day, it's filling light with different colors. It's so beautiful. It's
I thought you would like the color part of it, Beth.
I couldn't get over it. It's and right as we walked inside too, because we were doing the audio tour, so right as we walked inside, some organ started playing, and it was very cool. So yeah, that was fun. We did a bunch of other stuff that day too. We went to a comic book store. It was great. The next day we took a bus to Palafrugell, which is awkward to say because I don't speak that language. And then a cab to our hotel, Hotel San Roque.
Cool.
It's a very cool hotel.
Yeah. So to be a little more specific about where it is, if you head north up from Barcelona, the next big major town up that way is, and I'm still not sure if it's Girona or Girona, but that area begins.
It depends on if it's Catalonian or Spanish.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah, I
pronounced
heard-
differently in the two languages.
I heard people saying it different ways, so I wasn't sure which one to go with. But that gets up into the area that's Costa Brava, which is just an incredibly beautiful rocky beach that is almost to the border of France. And Palafuegal is one of the beaches along the area. The reason we ended up at that is that I had a friend who had stayed at a hotel out there years ago, and he'd recommended it. It was a great recommendation.
It was great.
Absolutely beautiful.
Totally worth paying the extra for the beachside, little extra larger room because we had like a deck and we napped out there a lot.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Super
I mean,
pretty.
it felt like a 4-star hotel you would find along the Chesapeake Bay, and it was. I mean, once again, prices were super reasonable.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was not warm when we were there. I was really hoping it was probably the low 60s the whole time we were there, which is not warm enough to go into some cold Mediterranean water. Steven did the second day we were there.
It felt good.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have stayed in it all day long.
I put my feet in and was like, oh. But yeah, it has like this walkway, this path down the cliff to the beach, so it's kind of a private beach, and it's just rocky and beautiful. It kind of felt like Washington beaches, but like Mediterranean, like those kind of rocks you can scramble all over, and yeah.
It reminded me a lot of Cinque Terre in Italy.
I see.
But yeah, it was super pretty. I'm pretty sure you could see anywhere from 10 to 15 feet down into the water. It was crystal clear.
Super
And
pretty.
because it was cold and it was just before the Easter holidays for people, not a lot of tourists. It was very quiet, which was nice. That was kind of the middle of our trip where we were relaxed a little bit.
Yeah, those were our 2 days.
Nice.
Or 2 or 3 days we did nothing. We just chilled. And it's like it's a short walk up to like the kind of beach town that I'm sure in the height of summer is crawling with people, but it was very quiet. Mostly French people come down since it's so close to France. I think when we had dinner there the first night at the restaurant at the hotel, and I think it was 2 other couples were eating, and they were both French. But yeah, it was great. Highly recommended. We got up early for the sunrise both mornings because it's sunrises over that side of the world, and it was beautiful. That first morning was really pretty, but we didn't get up early enough. And the next morning we got up super early, and it wasn't as pretty, but gorgeous. So yeah, those couple days we just kind of chilled out, which was nice because we did a lot in Barcelona.
Yeah.
And then
That's a good thing to do, like to plan that into your
Oh yeah,
schedule,
for sure.
'cause
I
you
think-
guys
I
are-
think any
you guys
major,
did a lot of
2-week trip
cities.
I've done, I've always tried to take that Saturday and Sunday in the middle of the trip and do something really relaxing.
It didn't feel like every morning we were getting up early and like going crazy. Like it felt like the right amount of go for us though, which was nice.
That's
Like there were a
good.
couple days that in the afternoon I was like, I need to go home, go back and take a nap. But
Good.
Yeah.
it didn't feel like we were missing out on anything. We hit everything we wanted to, I think. So then on Monday we took a bus to Girona and then hung out there for the day. It was a little dicey finding our hotel, which we did not realize that we didn't check in at the place we were staying. We checked in at a different hotel and walked across town to our hotel room, but it's fine. We stayed in the like super medieval section.
Yeah, Girona was really awesome.
Freaking cool.
If you're taking a trip to Barcelona, you can take the bullet train there in I think 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's really not very far away.
And it's
If you don't want to pay for the
so
bullet train,
cool.
I don't think the bus is particularly slow to get there either. But like I think like Girona in a lot of ways reminded me of when I went to Siena outside of Florence, which is that it just has a very medieval feel to the town. It was definitely a walled city because we walked
on the wall.
For those of you
It's
that
still
are,
there, yeah.
are Game of Thrones fans, the town feels very
fun.
familiar because they've shot
They've shot a bunch
a
of
lot
them.
of Game of Thrones there. Probably the most iconic scene being the shame scene with Lena Headey, which I won't get into exactly what that is for people who are still watching the show. But
No spoilers.
the town feels like you're walking through Game of Thrones. The city is really beautiful. I don't know if it's like has a ton of like your general touristy stuff there, because I think that
Yeah.
Barcelona kind of probably sucks up a lot of that for that region. But I would totally just like hang out and chill.
We
and-
could have
and
spent probably
Girona for a
another
couple of
day
days.
there because we were just staying there because we caught the train to Paris the next day, so we were only there for like a half day and then a night. But we could have spent probably another day walking around just because it's just every like alleyway is rad. Like it's just such a cool place to explore and check out. It seems like they're having also an issue with like Airbnbs there. It seems like a lot of Spain and France is not liking Airbnb taking over their towns, but because there were some banners saying something about like tourists go away type of thing. But
Sure.
anyway,
Yeah, but I think there's something really interesting to being able to get that one ring outside of the traditional tourist experience. In part because like you could tell when you're like, all of a sudden there's like, oh, the tour groups have disappeared, or if you stop seeing Asian people in general.
I mean,
because
Girona
I feel
still
like
has
yeah,
that,
but
yeah.
I feel like there's, especially if somebody's coming on a big vacation, whether it's from the States or from China or Japan, you're trying to hit, especially if you're going on a big tour group thing, you're trying to hit these big places, and like Girona's not often
Not quite,
probably
yeah.
on that, because if you're flying that far, you're probably going to go to Barcelona and then you're going to go straight to Paris. So it felt a little bit more authentic, I guess, in a way to get away from some of the bigger packs of people.
Another cool thing that happened, and by cool I mean not at all, while we were sitting in our hotel room in Girona, we got a text from my mom and found out that Notre Dame had caught on fire. So that happened the day before we got to Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our itinerary had us visiting Notre Dame, I think, 20 hours after it got on fire.
We didn't have
Crazy.
tickets, but I think we were just going to
that
walk.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that was nuts. So, the next day we caught the Bolt train to Paris. I love the train. The train was great. It was, once we figured out how to get there and how to get on it and all that fun stuff, because our Euro pass was confusing. It was so wonderful and easy and comfortable, unlike flying. I think, we had first class tickets, but,
Yeah.
yeah, it was great.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, we got to Paris. Whoops, this is where my notes stop. So yeah, in Paris I didn't love the city itself very much, but I really loved all the tourist attractions. That's what I was finding. Like when people come to LA and want to do touristy things, they're usually not that worth it. But I feel like Paris, you're like, yeah, go to the Eiffel Tower, go to the Louvre. Like they're amazing. It's all great. So we did the Louvre the first day, which we actually did relatively quickly. We both kind of agreed to like walk quickly through some things and spend more time on other things.
That's cool.
Now, is that the one where you did all of the dogs?
Oh
Or
yeah,
was
I
that
did
the
do the
horses
Good
one?
Boys of the Louvre. Or was that? I don't remember.
It was the horses.
It was so
Okay.
fun. I really enjoyed it. It was just so fun to turn around a corner and be like, oh, I've seen that painting before. Like that's nuts. The whole room of what's her face, Mona Lisa. There's literally nothing else in that room right now. It's just the Mona Lisa.
Wait, there's nothing in there right now?
No, that big painting that's behind it was gone. I don't know.
Really?
What?
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. No. It's so yeah, that was
Wow.
hilarious.
When I
Disappointing.
was there, it
Everyone
was
be
like covered in other paintings and stuff too.
yeah, I don't know what happened there, but yep, literally the only thing in that big old gallery, just one tiny
The
little like 12
bummer.
or 18 painting. Yep.
All right, so Beth, you
Yeah.
are like a master's in art things.
True.
So Ryan and I like to trash on the Mona Lisa. On
Yeah.
this
I don't get it.
podcast.
I still don't get it. No, I'm right there with you.
Well,
Real
okay,
life
not
versus
trash on
what
it,
you
but
think
just
it's gonna be
like don't really understand why
it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's a small painting.
Yeah.
I've never really understood the draw.
I am absolutely fascinated by the Mona Lisa because
Okay.
of that it's so popular.
Yeah.
Like I think there's something so interesting to that, and like we could get into a big long discussion about like what makes like art important, and just the whole social construct of that. We've all decided that this is an important piece of artwork. It'd be fun to like go back and trace like at what points in history did this thing like become the marketable icon of it. Like what's there like, because like it, like every like. Yeah, because everybody knows it. Everybody.
I feel like I actually saw a
they
YouTube
walk right
video about
past
that
the,
at one
like,
point.
you know,
Da Vinci didn't do many paintings, so is it maybe just because it's one of the few Da Vinci paintings? I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I think it's a memorable look.
It's mysterious.
Yeah.
Also, like, there's 2 horizon lines in that painting. Like, each side of her has a different horizon line. Like, it's very...
No way.
Yeah, look
What?
back at it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, does that mean something? I'm sorry, as a non-artist,
I think a lot of people are projecting meaning on that painting when maybe it just wasn't super planned out.
Oh my gosh, you're
It's a
right.
portrait.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, anyway, there's so many other super impressive pieces of art in that huge museum, so, like, it really makes me angry that, like, people hoard this room just to get a picture of this small picture.
Well, I think that's the difference between, like, even, like, either an artist or an art historian walking a museum versus I'm a tourist, I don't really know a whole lot about art, but I'm not going to be in Paris again, so I have to go see the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Well, and you
kind of
do have to
it's
go
on all,
see it.
You do, right? Well,
I mean, we walked past it, took a selfie of us shrugging, and then moved on. Like, the one that was just as impressive as I was hoping was the Winged Victory. I have loved that piece since college, reading about it and stuff. So that was really exciting. And you can literally just, like, sit next to it. Like, it's at the top of the staircase, and since we were there early-ish, we got there when it opened. It wasn't crazy busy when we were first walking through it. It got there later, but so, like, we just took a break underneath the Winged Victory, which was awesome. It was. I think actually seeing a bunch of those sculptures in real life was more impressive to me than the paintings, because you don't get the sculptures fully in photos. I mean, a lot of paintings you don't quite either, but, like, seeing things that big in that 3D is just, it's mind-blowing. It's really cool.
I think that's how we use the Mona Lisa reference on this podcast, is something less impressive in person than you expected it to be, because there are all sorts of things in travel where you see it and you're like, oh, you kind of feel let down, and then there's other things where you're like, whoa, like, nothing could have prepared me for how amazing this is, and there's a whole spectrum of things.
So on one end you've got the Mona Lisa, on the other end you've got the Grand Canyon, perhaps. Because I feel like people always say, oh man, the Grand Canyon's really big, and I don't think you can understand just how big that hole in the ground is until you stand in front of it.
Or redwoods, would be another one. Or you're right.
Nature.
Mona Lisa to Grand Canyon, where's it fall? I like that.
I skipped it, but our first night in Paris, we went on a river cruise thing, and they had to change the route of it because of
because it went
Notre
right
Dame.
past whatever the name of the island is that Notre Dame is on.
Yeah, but I guess police had closed off a bunch, so they kind of went up and then back around. But we did actually get to go behind Notre Dame, so we saw it way closer than you would from the street. So that was cool, because from the front it doesn't really look like anything, but from the back is when you can tell that there's no roof left.
Yeah.
And
Actually, I think I like the back of the building more.
Yeah,
you can see all the flying buttresses coming
Yeah,
off.
it's
Like,
a
the
much
architecture is
more
pretty
beautiful.
cool.
Ryan, did
And
you
we
burn
end-
it down?
Ryan, was that you?
Ryan.
I was not in France.
A likely story. We actually ended up
You can't prove
buying. We bought a lithograph of Notre Dame at the Louvre, because the Louvre has a studio that they take really old lithograph plates, and reprint them in, like, old traditional ways, so that they're maintained like they should. And so we found a print of Notre Dame from the back.
Cool.
And it was, like, only, like, €90 for this, like, beautiful, pretty large print. So I just took it to the frame shop today to get it framed. But that was kind of like our Paris, like, this is, like, actually something really cool to take home, of, like, this old print. It's really cool. But most of Notre Dame things are from the front, so it was really cool to find one from the back.
That is cool. Yeah.
That view doesn't really exist anymore, so it was cool. But we took a river cruise, and we were trying to shoot it to be at sunset, but that didn't quite, so it was still light outside. But probably our most romantic moment of our honeymoon was being on the top of the boat, dancing as we passed the Eiffel Tower.
Aww, that's so fun.
And then people on the road, like, cheering, so that was funny.
We were put on a show for people because we were the only people on the roof.
And
of the
by
boat.
we, I mean that one right next to me.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
But I think it was. I mean, like so much of the art. It's weird. I found a lot of parallels to Paris, to New York City, where it is like I feel like when people do come out to LA and they're like, oh, I want to go see the sights. It's like, well, it's not really a sight city. What you want to do is you want to go to where the good food is. You want to go to good shows. You want to go to the beach. And I felt Barcelona was kind of that city at the beginning of it. Because, I mean, I'm sure they had some great museums that we didn't go to, but you know, like we moved LACMA out here, but there's something to like the Orsay and the Louvre to being able to see like some of those seminal pieces of artwork.
Yeah, we didn't originally plan to, but we went to the Orsay the next day, and that was fun. It's in like an old train station, so it's laid out a little funky. It's not as like logical from one gallery to the next. You kind of keep happening upon galleries like, there's more art in here. But it's on the more modern side of stuff. It's like kind of after, like, the Louvre does all the like older art, and then the Orsay kind of picks up where that stops, up until like 1900 or so. So you get the more like the Impressionists and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think between the two, I might have liked the collection of the Orsay a little bit better, in part because I felt like the Louvre was such a great collection of just like artwork from like previous eras in previous places. So like you have a lot of Roman and Greece artwork,
a lot of Italian paintings,
a lot of Italian stuff. Where it felt like the Orsay kind of picks up right as the Enlightenment's taking off from the salons, and you've got Monet and Manet and all those guys are in there. So it feels like a very like it's got the I think the real French paintings a lot of people associate Paris with, and it was fun to do that, and then to go over to the part of town where a lot of that stuff was painted in.
Yeah, that's right. We went up to Montmartre and had a terrible dinner.
We didn't do as well with our food.
Paris.
In part because two of the meals we had that were real clunkers, we basically ate the Times Squares of those areas. So those are on default.
But and then at one point, I don't remember where we are in the story, we went to the Eiffel Tower to see it sparkle at night, and that was amazing. Like that's totally worth it. And it was pretty quiet. Like it wasn't very busy, which I was expecting just the Eiffel Tower to always be just full of people constantly. And we like laid on the grass underneath it for like 45 minutes waiting, because it sparkles like on the hour for a couple hours. So we were like from like 9:15 to 10, we just kind of laid on the grass spark and waited for it to sparkle, and it sparkled like beautiful. And then we took a cab back to our hotel, and it was
fun.
Super fun.
That's cool.
Nice.
It's bigger than I thought it was.
It's so big.
Yeah, it is big.
It is, yeah.
It is cool that you
Did
can
you guys go up?
No, you can see people walking up the stairs, and you're like, why? Why would you do? Our friend
because it's so much faster than waiting in the really long line if you don't buy tickets ahead of time.
The whole freaking thing. Our friend.
No, you don't walk up the whole thing. It only goes up to the first level.
Really?
And then you have to take the elevator to the other two.
Oh, okay. But our friend who has been to Paris a bunch and suggested the hotel we stayed at and everything, he was like, it's totally like a cool experience to walk it. And we're like, no.
I mean, I've done some cool walking up things that I've been really happy about.
I'm sure would have. We were on day like 10 or 11 of the trip at that point.
And
we were averaging 20,000 steps a day. So
that makes sense.
We were pretty sore by that point.
Yeah, I was.
You have to realize I'm also on a surgically repaired Achilles.
That wouldn't have.
Yeah, not even a year from reparations. It was amazing I moved around as well as I did.
Yeah, we did pretty good. But yeah, Paris was fun for the stuff we did. Whereas I think Barcelona was fun for like the experiences and the food. I like the places we went.
We had some really good French food with the food tour on the last day.
The food tour was fun.
But I feel like in some ways I have a similar love of French food that I do of barbecue, which is that it's really good when it's really good, but I do not want to eat it the next day. It's a very very delicious and very rich, but I couldn't imagine having foie gras multiple times in the same week.
Yeah, we had an amazing duck l'orange. It was so good on that tour. Oh my gosh, that tour was different because on the Barcelona tour we ate throughout the tour. This tour we went to places and he talked and gathered stuff, and then we went up to like an upper room of a wine store and everything was prepared and we ate there.
So
it was interesting, but we didn't know that, so we were really hungry by the time that 3 hours.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I would say if you are going to go on a trip to Paris, I would definitely check to see if it's called Secret Food Tours. Their original tour is in Paris, and I think they have like 5 or 6 different neighborhoods at different points in the day with different themes that you can choose from. We did the Saint Germain one, which is very good, but they do all sorts of different ones. Also, they do one that's just chocolate and pastries.
I was going to say, do they have a chocolate one? Because that's the one I'm interested in.
We got a little bit of chocolate.
The chocolate we got was very good.
Oh, it was so good.
So yeah, I mean, I think regardless of what part of town you're in or you want to explore, they've been doing their French tours for like a decade. They're just starting to do them a lot of other places, but that's where they're based out.
We also did a tour of the catacombs, and that was so cool. I highly suggest that if you're in Paris.
Yeah,
cool.
Definitely do a tour.
Are either of you guys familiar with the catacombs?
I mean, it's a lot of bones underground.
6 million people are buried under the city of Paris.
Did
Yeah.
you say million or billion?
6 million people.
Wow.
And when they say there's like the bones are down there, I mean it's literally like they stack the bones like pieces like logs.
Art. Like it's and some of them are like
really?
actually like the way
you should look up some photos.
Yeah, the photos are rad. They use the femurs and the skulls for the wall of it, and they just kind of like threw everything else back there. But so like some of the walls are like organized. Yeah. It's
and
like
you're not supposed to touch the
No.
walls, but you're literally walking right next to it.
Yeah, like there's nothing to stop
That
you.
is so crazy.
So the cool thing,
it's just miles and miles of that.
it's literally 5 miles of that.
That looks
throughout.
like a movie set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they basically they ran out of places to bury people, and so they just didn't have like the rivers were running with like people sewage. So they had to figure out, and it was originally a quarry. That's where they got all the rock to build Paris. So they had all these places underneath the city. The underneath Paris is basically Swiss cheese. Like for a couple hundred years they've been like trying to make sure nothing falls anymore. But so that's when they started putting all the bones down there because they just didn't have anywhere to put it. But I highly suggest getting a guided tour because they take you in places that you can't go.
Well, more importantly, you can skip the 2-hour line.
And you skip the
that's
2 to
a good
4 hour
reason too.
line. And our tour guide was great. She was really fun. There was a couple kids, and she was really playing to them. And it was, she reminded me a little bit of you, Cheryl, and of another actress that I can't remember the name of right now. But she was really fun. That was a highlight of Paris. I think it was super cool. And we got a lot of like history of Paris too that I didn't know like how everything connected. So it was really interesting. But it was awesome. It was really cool.
I think one of the most interesting tidbits that came out of that for me is that one of the things you'll notice when you're in Paris is that almost all the buildings are 5 stories tall. Mm-hmm. It's a lot like Washington, D.C. in that it's just not they don't allow the buildings to get taller, and it's because of the catacombs. They only know probably a fraction of the tunnels down there. So there's a very real danger that if you build too high, that the buildings will collapse into sinkholes.
Yikes.
Because it's like Swiss cheese. Mm-hmm. They don't know where all and I mean the French Resistance probably. I'm really hoping one of these days they're going to find a tunnel and it's still going to have stuff in it from World War II, where they were hiding things from the Germans.
Also, the interesting thing about Paris that I didn't know at all was that it was leveled in the 1800s.
It was Napoleon Bonaparte's brother.
Yeah, Napoleon's brother basically went to London and was like, "Oh, cities don't have to be total crap holes. Cool." And came back, and because Paris was still basically a medieval city at that point, and was like, these streets are so narrow, we have no sewage, like, this is awful, and just, like, leveled the city and rebuilt it. So now what we think of very Parisian buildings are because of that time period, where it's, like, all the sand, the limestone with the roofs, like, everything's same, because that's why Paris doesn't have really old buildings, even though it's a really old city, because they started from scratch.
Yeah, they don't have, like, a medieval area. We kept walking around, it's like, where are they really old buildings?
Yeah, like, everything starts in, like, the 1800s, like, 1700s, like, that's kind of weird. Whereas, like, in Barcelona and then in Amsterdam, things are, like, from 1500s. Like Amsterdam, there's things on the walls that are, like, 1580. You're like, what in the world? But Paris just doesn't have that anymore.
Well, the other thing that was really funny is that you have these beautiful, very wide boulevards that go through the middle of town. And the reason those exist is because Napoleon's brother, when he was putting the city together, was like, okay, Paris loves to have a revolution every 30 or so years. And the reason they keep getting, they keep being successful is because they essentially do what you see in the scenes in Les Miserables. They build a barricade, and all the roads are very short, so you can very quickly turn the center of Paris into a fort. So the boulevards are there so that if the Parisians decided to revolt against Napoleon, he could very easily march his troops in from any direction. There was no way to barricade to the center of town.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is just interesting how, like, at least the history, because
looks pretty.
It's beautiful. The tour guide we had is an American expat, and she's been there for 8 years, so she has an interesting view on Parisians of that. Like, she's been living there for long enough, but she has an outside perspective too. And she was saying that French are a little more glass half empty, and their language is very much like that too. It's a pretty negative language, but she's like, I don't know if they think that way, which informs their language, or if their language informs the way they think. but it is like they're very much always kind of wanting to revolt and like looking to make sure that no one's being stepped on, but also kind of pessimistic about it, and that's just kind of the French way. And it's interesting that their history has very much kept that in line. Like there's always revolutions happening, and it was interesting. And then we went to Amsterdam. We took the train super late at night to Amsterdam because Eurorail's a butthead. And Amsterdam's a really cool old city. We stayed in a super cool hotel. This was the most expensive hotel because it was Easter weekend and we booked a little late and there wasn't really a whole lot available anymore. But we stayed in like basically what would have been the attic of this really old place. And so it had the rafters still in there, and it had the big wheel from like, because I don't know if you're like aware of what the like kind of typical Dutch row houses look like. Like if you Google Amsterdam, that's like what'll come up. But they all have like a hook that sticks out the top of them because their stairwells are so narrow, as everything is so narrow there, that if you want to bring anything upstairs, like furniture or something, you have to like use a pole.
Yeah. I've seen that before.
That's
So
right,
the
I've
room
heard
we
that.
stayed in, they kept like all the really cool old stuff. So there's this huge, massive wheel above the bed to like, which would be like the pulley wheel to pull everything up.
Oh,
But
cool.
it's all like updated really beautifully too. Like the bathroom is gorgeous, and like it was a really cool hotel.
It was really nice. I mean, we had this massive wooden wheel with iron spikes all over it above our heads as we slept, which was interesting. But no, it was a very nice hotel.
Like the view of the bay there, and it was super pretty.
And unlike what happened in Barcelona, with it feeling like boy, it would be nice if we were a little closer to the town center. I mean, we stayed in Jordan, which is that middle sort of wheel.
That's like the area.
Yeah.
We're like across the water from the train station, basically.
But it's kind of interesting in that it's like you have basically it looks like a wagon wheel with multiple spokes on it, and because of the way that area is built, regardless of what part of town you're in, you're constantly going to be being pushed to that center. And so that center area is a hot mess in terms of just lots of people, all very, very congested. I mean, we were there Easter weekend, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. But a lot of them, like that was like tourism central, was that area in the red light district, which kind of went into that central area anyway. But what was really cool is that you could basically walk down an alley and get on the next spoke out of the wheel, and it was empty,
silent,
and
Wow,
beautiful, and very
Truman Show style or something.
Yeah, it was really interesting. The first morning, I say we got up early. It wasn't that early. I think our tickets at the Rijksmuseum were like 9 or something. So I think we were up outside walking around like 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday. Like no one was out. It was like dead silent. We're like, oh, this is so beautiful. This is great. And there was like a little kind of farmer's market just starting to set up. So we got like some pastries and walked to the museum. By the time we got out of the museum, it was like, oh no, there's people everywhere. So busy.
Yeah, it became marijuana or Mardi Gras.
Yeah, it was super busy. And they had this big like in quotes like tulip market because the tulips are happening while we're there too.
Yeah.
But basically it was just like stalls selling the same stuff, and like every other thing had like a marijuana leaf.
So it's like leaning into the tourism of the tulips then.
Yeah. So like Amsterdam was interesting in that like there wasn't a lot to do there. Like we went to the Rijksmuseum one day and then the Van Gogh Museum the next day and did a boat tour that second day as well. But like just kind of walked around, got some really good food. The Amsterdam, one of a guy he knows from childhood lives there, so we actually caught lunch with him one day, which was fun to talk to someone other than each other. Which we realized that we spent basically like a week and a half not talking to anyone else but each other. And he was like, Dutch food sucks. Like, it's not good. So that's like, any good food in Amsterdam is not going to be Dutch. It's going to be like any other culture. Kind of like LA, where like a bunch of cultures come together. Amsterdam is like that. So we went to a nice dinner that first night at, I don't even know what kind of food it was. It was kind of like,
it was like French.
It was that's right. It was kind of French fusion-y. It was really good, but it wasn't like Dutch food. And then like the last night we got like burgers.
Yeah, well, I think higher end Dutch food has a lot of similarities with French food.
Yeah.
So even the place we went, I think probably had some Dutch things on the menu.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
in the
you
same
said
way,
everything's fried. So, you know.
In the same way you would go to London, maybe you'd get the fish and chips or one or two other things, but you may be better off with some of the other. You're not going to want to necessarily eat London food every day. Yeah. But yeah, no, I thought it was really nice. I think of the places we visited, it's the one place that you could probably just be like, hey, do you want to have a job in Amsterdam? And be like, yep, I could go do that, and I wouldn't actually have to learn another language.
Yeah, everyone spoke English. Like, all the signs were in English. Like, it wasn't, there wasn't, that was the least issue we had. Yeah,
my friend who's been living there for 3 years says he doesn't speak a word of anything other than English.
Yeah, and he's buying property there. He's buying a house. Like,
wow.
He's there, yeah. And apparently with Brexit, a bunch of tech companies are moving out of London into Amsterdam because Brexit has made international stuff really hard for companies. So if they want to stay in the EU, they're moving over to Amsterdam. So there's a ton of tech happening.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the city is gorgeous. The old houses are crazy. They lean in the most insane angles that you wouldn't think can
they built it on top of a swamp.
It's on top of a swamp, and they're all like wood beams. So like there are buildings that are just like just crazy. It's nothing is straight. Everything, and you can tell in some buildings they're trying to kind of tamper it because like there'll be filler in between the two buildings. It looks like they maybe are like trying to keep it from moving more, but it's crazy. It's very cool. The Van Gogh Museum was really good.
Yeah, I think the Van Gogh, which was the museum, which is the last museum we went to, because we also went to the Rijksmuseum.
That's big
as well, which was very cool.
It's just another like cool. Big museum.
What I really appreciated about the Van Gogh Museum was I feel like a lot of other museums, and maybe just because they're big museums and they just keep it pretty general, is they're like, this is a Rembrandt. It's one of the Rembrandts he did. Look at the Rembrandt. Where I felt like the Van Gogh Museum did this really great job of being like take a closer look. This is the technique that was used to make this, and here's some paintbrushes that kind of look like show you how he created this technique.
It's much more education focused.
Yeah.
And it also flows in a logical way, whereas a lot of museums I find like send you in loops, or you're like, which way am I supposed to be going? Is there a logical way, or are you just putting stuff on walls? Whereas it's very much like you start here and you go through there and you go through there, and it like works through his life. Not everything is chronological, but it was really cool. It was really good.
It was super cool. They even had one of the paintings under like a heavy microscope, so you could see where he had spilled some sand.
He worked on the beach, so there's sand flecks in there and stuff.
Oh, cool.
They had a lot more like interactive stuff too. Like things
that's
were
the sign of a
more,
good museum.
Yeah, it was good. It's short. You can probably do it in like an hour or two. It's pretty short.
It's a quick museum.
Lots of products with various Van Gogh stuff on it. So if you want a T-shirt or scarf or any product you can imagine, you can get it there. The Rijksmuseum, they had a Rembrandt. It's literally, the exhibit's called All the Rembrandts, which made me laugh. Which is all of the Rembrandts. And that was really good. Like, Rembrandts has always kind of been one of my favorites, but that was really, except the audio tour drove me nuts because it wasn't logical. They'd like start you in the middle of the room and you have to like go find the next one and be like, wait, why is this not just the first one on the wall? Like, what's happening?
That's annoying.
I thought that.
At one point, I think that you actually have to double back to an earlier room.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
At one point I just kind of stopped listening to the audio things because like the art is incredible and they have paintings and etchings and like failed prints of etchings that like didn't go well. Like, it's just a really, really cool exhibit. So if you're in Amsterdam, I highly suggest that.
But that one's in the Rijksmuseum.
It's in the Rijks, yeah. And then we just kind of like quickly walked through the rest of the Rijksmuseum, which has a ton of stuff.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was not expecting or looking for at the Rijksmuseum that I really enjoyed was they had a lot of naval history.
Yeah, that was cool.
Makes sense. I mean, it's Amsterdam. But one of the sections on the first floor has all these like model ships and like from like different navies over the years and all these like different like weaponry and different naval warfare stuff.
And also like a ton of like dishes and jewelry and just like found objects throughout history too, which is cool. It's not just art; it's like just a bunch.
I feel like a lot of times when I walked into museums that have a bit more of that, I'm just like, I'm going to the next room. But for whatever reason, that area was really well put together.
Cool. Oh, that's right. That was really cool. In the naval history one, they had half of a ship model. And next to a mirror, and they were projecting videos of people like doing what they would be doing on the ship. So but like really tiny. So throughout the whole ship, you could see like like a guy mopping the deck, and it was kind of a looping.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they
like-
basically Tupac hologram
Yeah.
and
But it
a
was-
1500s
It was
Dutch horse.
really cool. It was really, really well done. It was very cool. I was like trying to figure out how they did it. It was very cool. I didn't realize it was on a mirror for too long, but yeah, very cool. So yeah, and we just kind of ended the day on we ended the trip on our longest walking day. We did 27,000 steps on our last day.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, which was not intentional.
It was not intentional. There were some issues.
There were some issues with one of our tours.
Our tour of the canal canceled without telling us, so we had to walk around trying to figure out what the heck happened.
Oh no!
And it was on Easter, and the guy was just like, "We're not running those today," and I was like, what?" And we had actually accidentally walked past the tour office, and Steven had saw it was open. He's like, "Oh, that's the tour we're about to do." I was like, "Oh, cool." So when the guy was kind of being a jerk at the where we were supposed to get the boat, we just like walked back to the office, and the guy was like, "I don't know why, that's weird," and like got us on a different boat. But
Oh, well, that's good.
yeah, it was like, kind of wonderful that we saw that. But we walked a lot that day.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then
I lost weight on our trip.
I did not. So I hadn't eaten bread in about 2.5 years. And boy, did I eat bread on this trip.
Oh boy.
I ate a lot of bread.
Mm.
I ate all the bread.
I
did not hold back.
Yeah, no, it was very interesting, and I think a bit of an eye-opening experience about like the different like food processes in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Because even just like I don't drink that much regularly, and I've gotten bad hangovers before from just having red wine, and I don't think I drank as heavy as this since I was in college. And every morning I woke up in the morning, like I feel great. Like I had probably like 8 or 10 drinks yesterday, and I feel amazing. How is this happening? Which is very strange.
Yeah, and none of the food gave me stomach aches at all. Like I did not have.
She was pounding cheese.
I took Lactate only a couple times, and then just stopped because I didn't need it. I don't know why. It was miraculous.
I mean, it's exactly what Steven said. It really is the processes, because I've had the exact same experience where, like, I don't really do my food restrictions over there and have a lot of bread and things like that. And
yeah, and then I got home like the day we got back. I like went to go change the bathroom and like hives up my leg. I was like, oh, we're back. Okay, cool.
Oh, jeez.
Great.
Oh man. Well, thanks for sharing about this trip. So we have a couple follow-up questions for you guys. So the first one is based on the name of our podcast, Take Me With You. And you can answer this question separately, so you can both have an answer. If you could take us with you to just one thing on this whole trip, what would it be and why?
I mean, I would have really enjoyed you guys being on the food tour with Miguel. It was really fun, and he was a really good tour guide. And the food was so good. At the tapas place that he took us, there was some dish. It was so simple. I still don't quite understand. It was a garbanzo bean, like, eggplant thing. And it was one of the best things I've ever eaten in my life. It was so good.
Okay.
Yeah, Ryan does not look impressed with that dish.
It may have tasted really good, but if you lead with garbanzo beans,
I know, right? But they
I'm
were
not
like
impressed.
moist and like, because sometimes garbanzo beans probably out of a can are kind of dry and gross. Like it was so good. I just like, it was one of those foods you're like, I am so full, but I just want to keep eating this. It's so good. I don't know. What about you?
I mean that dinner in the dark would have been really fun to do with another two people.
So we could have a food fight in the dark too. What just hit your face? What kind of food?
One of the desserts had Pop Rocks on it, which is a fun experience.
Oh,
That's
fun!
so funny.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I should try that at some point. I need to trust you guys and go try that sometime.
There's one in New York, right? I don't know where else.
There might have
been.
San
Francisco.
I can't remember the other one.
And there's one in London. I know that. See, I knew of it from the movie About Time with.
That's where I heard it. I knew I heard of it somewhere.
So when someone, I don't remember how we heard about it. Someone suggested something. I was like, oh, I know what this is. It's so cool. It's a very fun experience. But yeah, that would be fun to do with more than 2 people.
Sweet. And what's your next trip?
I I think we're going to San Diego in a month or two.
We're going to San Diego like 4 times this summer.
We might as well just
I was like, at this point, I don't know if that's a trip as much as
we should probably just move there.
Yeah, this is a vacationing down the way.
A minor vacation.
Still a trip.
I don't know what our next trip is. I mean,
We talked about going to New York City in the fall.
that's true. His aunt and uncle live in New York, and I've never been there, so it'd be fun to get the 2 weeks.
Nice.
I would like to take Beth up to San Francisco.
Yeah, I've never been to San Francisco.
Oh, cool.
You've never been to San Francisco?
I know. We drove past it when we moved down here, but we didn't have time to stop.
Huh.
Yeah, so we might do that on like some long weekend or something. But we just traveled so much before the wedding. We just wanted to not travel for a while.
That's true. You guys did.
Yeah, so maybe some little weekend stuff here and there, but nothing crazy.
Cool. And do you have any travel questions for us?
Ooh, are you guys sponsored by Away yet?
I wish. I wish.
Because we used Away suitcases, and boy, oh boy, does that compression system work.
More than other hard-sided suitcases?
I've never used a hard-sided suitcase before.
Okay.
have you?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
I have a
was
hard-sided
super
suitcase,
impressed,
and I really like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was super, super impressed by how well everything fit. Like, we kind of kept buying stuff, and stuff kept fitting. We didn't buy a ton, but...
Nice.
But you actually did have an Away suitcase?
Yeah, we got them for our wedding. We got the large
sweet.
carry-on.
Cool.
Yeah. We brought, like, a week and a half's worth of clothing, thinking we were going to do laundry at one of the places, and the one place we were expecting there to be laundry service, there wasn't. So, I bought 2 shirts at H&M in Amsterdam, I think. Mm-hmm. And then we just kind of suffered through it. But we probably should have brought a little bit more.
Or done sink laundry. That's a fun
I was going to say, or just done your own laundry.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we, unluckily, our first couple hotels definitely had laundry options, and then the back 2 did not.
Well, the Amsterdam one did, but it was so expensive. And we're like, no, we can survive a couple more days. It's okay.
It was €5 to €10 per article of laundry.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll just go buy a $7 H&M shirt. That's fine.
Yep.
Okay, so I have one final question. It's not one of our standard questions. And please answer honestly.
Oh, boy.
Rate Cheryl and my helpfulness in your planning process on whatever scale you would like. And yes, even if that means actually it was not helpful, that's totally okay.
Okay, so from Mona Lisa to Grand Canyon.
You planned it, so this is on you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was super helpful. I think there was definitely some things that we took into account when we were planning certain things. It's interesting too because it's a little hard to put the chicken and the egg, because before we sat down and talked with you guys, we kind of gave you roughly where we were going, and then you gave us some feedback off of those areas. So it turned out that both kind of what I was thinking and what you guys suggested weren't too dissimilar from each other.
Sure.
I think in partly because of that, but yeah, we definitely use a lot of the stuff. I mean, the food tour thing was such a great recommendation. I think that definitely set us up for success in Spain. I think that's something that I will be for sure doing more when I travel, and it's not something I've done in the past. I'm even tempted to try to do some food tours more locally too.
Yeah,
just
Secret Food Tour has one down here in Venice.
Oh, cool.
Like,
well, and there's other companies too, and so yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, even just being able to like learn a little bit more about some of the local food history in LA, because it is easy to get stuck in a food rut and go to the same 4 or 5 places over and over again.
And we also had some other friends suggest stuff for us, so we found 2 of our hotels through that, so that was nice.
So she's saying that we weren't that good, right?
No, you guys were so.
That's what I'm
I think
hearing too. It's
that's
fine.
the nice
It's
thing
fine.
about planning a trip is just like gleaning other people's ideas, and like so many people I've known have gone to Barcelona in this past year, so it was fun to gather a lot of people's ideas and stuff. I think probably the only thing maybe we both would have, even though the hotel was really nice, I think we probably would have preferred it to be in a district a little closer to where kind of everything we wanted to be at.
Yeah.
But that was like my only complaint about Barcelona was just that we were out of the loop a little bit, but
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
a nice
I stayed
hotel,
near the
though, so.
Arc when I was there one time, and then
Okay.
a little closer to Montjuic the other time, and those were good
Okay.
locations for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, we are going to do the last segment for this episode called Wish You Were Here. For this, each of the four of us is going to highlight a travel attraction, some place that we've been or seen or done at some point in our travels that we think is really cool. Kind of think of it like one of those like old classic iconic postcards with a cool image of this place and wish you were here. And we'll just kind of mention a real quick place. So, who would like to go first?
I'll go first. My recommendation is going to be in Barcelona because I really enjoyed the crap out of it. This is called Bodas Bar. It's Bodas, and it is actually right off of what's that called?
Las Ramblas.
It's right off Las Ramblas, which everyone told us like it doesn't matter. Walk down it, then you're done. But this bar is just like right, like it's the first door in an alleyway off of it, like, but you wouldn't really expect anything there because it's a little bit like maybe a step down. It's this like little 1920s bar, 1930s bar. It's been open basically since then, and it's family owned, and like the bartender, I'm pretty sure was like the grandson or something. But we got there like midday, so it was super quiet. Like it was maybe 2 other people in the bar. And it's this like really cool bar, and they have really interesting cocktails. And like basically we just like told the guy kind of what we like, and he made us cocktails. I don't know what they were.
Cool.
And they were incredible. And it's this tiny little bar. And he said that was like the first conversation we had with someone. It wasn't just Steven and I, our whole trip. But he said that at night it's usually like raging. This is like the first time in a long time it's been that quiet, but there's usually like 4 bartenders, and it's just full of people, and their whole thing is like mixing their cocktails like by holding the one part really low and like pouring it down so it's like streaming all the way down. It's like it's very performative, but they're really good. And on top of the like 2 or 3 cocktails we got from him, he was just like giving us other alcohols to try. There was like a seller or like some other guy in there selling him stuff, so he like gave us a taste of that and was like, "Here, try this. Oh, you try this." It was super fun. It was one of my favorite stops of the whole time.
That's cool.
It was super
Cool.
super fun.
Yeah.
It has pictures of like all the different celebrities and artists and people who have been there, like old school artists from like the 30s and 40s who drank there, like writers. It was just like one of those like really cool places that if you maybe don't know it's there, you're not gonna go. So that's mine.
So fun.
Cool.
Well, now I have to go back to Barcelona. Gosh.
Just surprise.
Definitely visit in the
All right,
afternoon.
Steven?
Yeah, go in the midday.
Yeah, I mean, well, we spent a lot of time talking about where we went on this trip, so I didn't feel like retreading anything. So the thing I was gonna point out is actually in San Francisco.
Cool.
It is called Specs. It is a bar. If you're familiar with is it the City Lights bookstore? I feel like I might be getting the name of the bookstore incorrectly, but it's like where Jack Kerouac and a lot of the beat poets did their printing out of. But it's across the street from that, down an alleyway. It's been there since the 60s, and it just has a lot of history to the building. It feels very of the area. I think it's one of the first 10 buildings in San Francisco to be designated a legacy building because of the lady who started it there. It's just another one of those places where you walk in where it's like they're not cooking anything in particular that's super fancy or anything, but there's just so much history to the building, and you just feel like a local the minute you walk in.
That's cool.
And it's just a really fun bar that just doesn't feel like it's been completely overrun.
Nice.
So it's a good place to check it out and be like, oh yeah, this is where all the poets in the 1960s would come in and write all their stuff in this room, and it's a fun one to check out.
Very cool.
Awesome. Cheryl, what's your wish you would hear?
All right, so mine is going to be local for me in Seattle, the Seattle Pinball Museum. It is in the International District, and it's called a museum, but I would say Ryan has frequently just defined a good museum as one that is interactive, and
Yep.
This one is very interactive in the sense that essentially it's an arcade. So they have it's wall-to-wall pinball machines in chronological order, back from some of the very early pinball machines before they were electronic. And you just come in and you pay $10 and you play as long as you want. And you can just walk around and play on all the different machines. I've been there several times because my dad is super into pinball and has his own pinball machine that actually was not in this museum. So that was kind of fun. We told him what my dad had, and it was like, whoa! But so it's so fun, fun for the whole family. I can tell you from experience. But yeah, it's a really good time, and it's in the International District, and so it's, if you're already kind of downtown, then it's a great place to add and stay as long as you want. And Ryan.
Yeah, so I'm going to do a Wish You Were Here from Australia. So in northern Australia, northeastern Australia, outside of Cairn, there's a city town called Kuranda, and there's a rainforest up there, and they have this thing called the Skyrail Rainforest Cableway. I don't know how interested Beth and Stephen would be, because it's a gondola.
Cool.
But I don't think it's like 500 feet up or anything like that. But what's really cool is there's several different stops that you go on, and it actually takes you through the canopy of the rainforest.
Oh, cool.
And so for part of it, you're actually up above the rainforest looking down on the rainforest. Then it'll stop partway through, and then you can get out, and they have these like wood plank walkways where you can walk around like in the treetops of the rainforest and like see all of these different features. And it's a really cool way to explore the rainforest without having to be like trekking through the rainforest.
Wow. That's cool.
So yeah, it's just really cool. Just the whole atmosphere is just beautiful. And they've got lots of like little plaques that can tell you things about the different like animals and the big giant bats that live there. Don't worry, they're not blood sucking or anything like that.
Are they the 6-foot wingspan ones, like the really big ones?
I don't know how big their wingspans were, because I never saw them like flying, because of course they're nocturnal.
Yeah.
But they're like, their bodies are probably like, I don't know, 1.5 feet.
Oh, cool.
Oof. Yeah, they're big.
So cool. I saw a
They're
slow
big.
motion video of one of those bats flying, and it was very cool. It was like he was like taking off from a guy's hand, so it was like you see him like on his wings. It was very cool. Yeah,
that is cool. So yeah, so that would be my Wish You Were Here, is the Skyrail Rainforest Canopy Gondola Ride in the rainforest in northern Australia.
Yeah, I'll go. That sounds good.
Yay.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys for being on our podcast again. We really appreciate it. It was so fun to hear about it.
Yes, for sure.
We would love you to plug your stuff. Normally, Beth, we plug you because Beth does the artwork, or did the artwork for our podcast. Yeah. So, Beth, you can talk about yourself this time.
Well, there's 2 Kickstarters that I am tangentially involved in. The first one is Dave Kellett's pop culture book, Sheldon book, is kickstarting now. You should go get it. I colored it and helped design it. It's good. And then the other one is probably Steven's plug as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how soon this is actually...
Let's go up in 2 weeks?
Yep, 2 weeks.
All right. Well, I think our Kickstarter might be done by then. But I wrote a book for a charity out here. I think I even mentioned this in my other plug.
Yeah, you did.
It's the Time Scout handbook, timescouts.com. Mark Evan Jackson of many awesome things did a amazing Kickstarter video for it. I think we raised close to $30,000 bucks, both to get people copies of the book and to get free copies of the book to kids in the creative writing program.
Nice.
So super excited about that and where that's all headed. So even if this is past the Kickstarter, they will eventually be selling it at the Time Travel Mart, which is a real place in Los Angeles that you can visit and buy things at. So
I'm sorry, the what?
The Time Travel Mart.
Time Travel Mart. It's the best place for buying whatever you need whenever you need it.
It's the front for the reading program. So they have a bunch of artists just make like kind of fake products that are time travel based.
Okay, gotcha.
Allegedly fake products for time traveling. It's
a really fun story.
Yeah, it's I'll hijack it as another wish you were
here. There you go. Next time you're in LA, come out to either Mar Vista or Echo Park.
Yeah, they're very fun. They do a lot of really great work out of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Very cool. Awesome. Well, in addition to doing all of those really cool things for Beth and Steven, you can also follow Take Me With You. You can follow this podcast on social media. We are at Timwy Podcast. That's TMWY Podcast on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. And we would love to have you follow us.
Yes. You can also email us at timwypodcast@gmail.com and send us your travel questions or tales or guest suggestions or anything else you would like to share with us.
Yeah, you can also call us or text us on your telephone device that you have. That number would be 406-763-8699, or if it's easier to remember this way, 406-POD-TIMWY. Believe it or not, we have actually received a voicemail message.
Ooh. We'll be playing it soon.
We will. We are prepping for that. We're excited to have gotten one. So maybe you could leave us another one, and then we'll include that on a podcast as well. Also, please, if you could rate and review us on whatever thing you're using to listen to this podcast, that would be great, so that other people can know that you enjoy it, and then they're more likely to find the podcast and hear the really cool stories that our guests like Beth and Steven share. And then also subscribe so that you can make sure that you get all of our episodes and don't miss any of our cool guest stories.
As always, thanks to Beth Reidmiller for our artwork. You can check out more of her awesome artwork at Beth is Something.
That Beth is pretty cool.
Thanks.
Normally she doesn't respond when we tell her thank you, but that's pretty exciting.
Here, I'll give you a fresh one so you can put it in every one. Thanks, guys.
Perfect.
You're welcome.
Also, thanks to Erica Corbin for her song Round the Globe. We're loving it so much.
Absolutely. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you one last time, Beth and Steven, for coming and sharing your honeymoon travel story with us.
Yeah.
And until next time, take me with you.
Take me with you.
Take me with you.
Take me with you.
Can we get a sailboat chasing down the sunset as we float round and round the globe? Salty air and balmy nights, guided only by the lights above, and a little love. All the world is out there waiting to explore, and all our troubles here wanting to be ignored. Oh, let's go to India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. We don't really need to know just where we'll go. Maybe Canada, then to Brazil, then through the Alpine foothills. All I really want to know is, can we go? Oh baby, can we go round and around the globe? Set the sails to the wind. I'm not even asking if or when we're coming back again. Cut the anchor, cast away. No sense waiting for another day. No time left to stay. 'Cause all the waters out there need some company. And who could ride them better now than you and me? Oh, we're home free to India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. It doesn't matter where we'll be, as long as there is you and me. Australia and Germany, Japan and then the Philippines, Puerto Rico, Tobago, Jamaica and then Providence, then up to Maine. It just makes sense, and yeah,